Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Film Odyssey podcast, where we're counting down the AFI Top 100. I'm your host, Dean, joined by...
Your brother, Randy.
My brother, Randy, yeah. And we watched Ben-Hur today, number 100 on the AFI Top 100 list. It is a 3.5-hour Bible epic in the truest sense of the word. And we're going to figure out if it deserves its spot on the list, if we liked it, thoughts on it, does it still hold up? So yeah, Randy, how you doing today?
Which one of those am I supposed to go to first?
I mean...
Does it deserve its spot? No. It obviously deserves a better spot.
A better spot.
On the list.
Okay. Because this is...
I don't even have to look at the list.
You don't even have to look...
I don't even have to look.
This is number 100.
I know.
Sir. So this is an interesting movie, right?
Yeah. Very interesting.
Indeed. Do you want to run down the plot for everybody, Randy?
No.
No? Okay, I got you. Okay, so Charlton Heston plays Judah Ben-Hur, a rich Jewish prince and merchant in Jerusalem, who is reunited with his old friend Malsala, the new commanding officer of the Roman Legion, after many years apart, but due to a mishap with a new governor and Mossad turning a blind eye to Ben-Hur, is sent to the galley and his mother and sister to prison. Sometime later, through fate and some luck, Ben-Hur is set free and is now on a quest for revenge that culminates in the greatest chariot race sequence of all time.
Also, it was not luck.
It was not luck.
It was not luck.
It was fate.
It was fate.
It was Jesus.
It was God.
Jeez. But yeah, and Jesus is in this movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think they shot Jesus very respectfully.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it. Because it was one of those things where they really showed a lot of restraint.
Mm-hmm. We never got the glory shot of, the close-up of Jesus. He's always shot either very far away where you can't see his face or his face is covered. Which is kind of interesting because you're a big fan of these Bible epic films.
I love them.
You love them?
I love them.
One of your favorite films is The Ten Commandments?
Yes.
You love Noah?
Charlton Heston.
Also Charlton Heston. Oh, okay. Where do you want to start here? Do you want to start story? Do you want to start with the production? Do you want to start with
production? They don't make them like they used to.
They do not.
They
oh my god.
They really do not make them like they used to.
Okay, and there's a reason.
It's so beautiful.
It is gorgeous.
And they're not afraid to do those nice dark scenes inside these places, which I think is kind of a craft that is lost nowadays, of shooting these really dark indoor scenes where it's black, when the character turns away from the camera, it's pitch blackness,
and it's crazy because you're thinking, oh my god, they probably spent millions of dollars on this set design and they're only gonna light a little corner because that's what the scene needs.
Yes, it's so good.
It's
something you never see anymore.
It's true. Usually you're seeing either all the money on screen and everything is showing off, or you're seeing people hiding the budget here. This is no, we got the budget, but we're telling a story here.
Just even that specific lighting detail where, you have 3 characters in the foreground, let's say, and then 2 characters go to the background. Usually in other movies, they'd still be visible just in the shadow. Mm-hmm. But here the shadows are so deep that it is complete blackness. They have the confidence of doing something like that, which is something not a lot of people do anymore in cinema.
It's true. Well, let me give you a little bit of history on the film production here, because this movie comes out in 1959. At the time this came out, MGM was in a huge financial hole.
Really?
Yeah. Well, what happened is there was.
Is it because of this movie?
Not because of this movie. No. What happened was there was a big court case, Paramount versus the United States, where the United States basically said, "Hey, film studios, you can't own movie theaters to show your movies and cut everyone else out of the profit." It basically was a whole antitrust suit.
Yeah, I've heard of this.
And what happens is MGM de-invested in all of its theaters and lost a huge market share. Mm-hmm. Paramount did the same thing, but Paramount did a huge gamble and made The Ten Commandments, which was one of the highest grossing films of 1958 or 57, whenever that film came out. And
for obvious reasons.
For very obvious reasons. The Ten Commandments is amazing. And MGM knew that if they remade their 1925 hit of Ben-Hur, which was their biggest hit of the silent era.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And they're 1959, we can do this, but we're going to have to put everything. It was an all-in bid. This movie cost $15.2 million to make.
In 1959.
In 1959. What that translates to is $142 million. What it got back was $147 million in 1959, which, adjusted for inflation, is $1.3 billion. It is one of the highest grossing films of all time. And not only that, this movie was nominated for 12 Oscars and won 11.
Yep.
First film to ever do it. That's kind of the big things people know about this movie. But for the famous scene, the chariot sequence.
Oh, God.
So good.
It was insane. And I was afraid because you had kind of hyped it up for me, being like, oh, yeah, this chariot scene, it's insane. And all this stuff. And I was watching it and I was like, oh, my God, it's so good.
You're like, you didn't do it justice.
You didn't. And you hyped it up so much, and you did not do it justice. It was so insanely good and just so crazy to watch. You're like, because you're watching it, and you're like, which of these stunts are done with stuntmen or done with, like, ragdolls?
Oh, and there's a few
like,
where you can't tell.
Yeah, and you're just, oh my God, it's so crazy to watch.
Oh, the scene
and it's
where
so intense.
The scene where Charlton Heston's chariot hits the other chair and he does the jump and the guy jumps 10 feet in the air.
Yes, the jump, it's so insane. And he like comes down on the like chariot, and I'm pretty sure it was a stuntman. I'm like, holy
that was an actual stuntman. And so the guy who did the stunts for this movie and the stunt coordinator was the same guy who did the stunts in 1925. I believe his name is Yakima Kana, who was the stunt coordinator, and his son's the one that did that jump. And he shattered his jaw on the landing. And
that makes perfect sense.
Kept it in the film. Also, that
guy
was
the shot they used?
That's the shot they used. Also, that kid was a sham because he was Charlton Heston's stunt person for the entire film. And the craziest thing is like the chariot sequence. There's all this pageantry to it, and it's so good. And every stunt in there hits because it's real people doing it.
Even just them riding around in the chariots. Like before all the stunts of like the chariots exploding basically and all that stuff, even them just riding around is just so intense. Yeah. You know, like it's all real horses. It was all when they did the shot where they follow Ben-Hur through the crowd, through the like horses when he's all the way from behind and he gets back up into second, and he kind of like threads the needle between all of them and the camera like follows him. I was like, oh my God.
You know how they did that? They had a Jeep literally on full speed behind those horses because those chariots were going like 60 miles an hour because they were at full gallop. They were at full gallop, and this car is right behind them. And if those horses like skipped, messed up, whatever, that truck is going right into the back and killing everybody, right? And it's insane. But here's the crazy thing about the production of that. That chariot sequence, just the chariot sequence, took 3 months to shoot. Cost $1 million to shoot, and this is after 1,000 workmen carved the arena out of a rock quarry. That's a real arena they built.
Is it still there?
I believe it's still there. It's carved into the stone like quarry, and those extras, those were not matte paintings or anything. That's 30,000 extras that they brought in for that scene. That's how big this production was, and at the end of it. This had a shooting ratio of 263 to 1. So every foot of film we see on screen, there's 263 that didn't show up. They filmed so much of this.
They needed to get their money's worth out of it, and they sure as hell did.
Damn right.
And like, I cannot give it justice. If you're listening out there, watch this movie just for that scene. It is so unbelievably good.
Oh yeah, it makes sense because that's the scene I think everybody agrees on is. This is masterful filmmaking.
Yes.
George Lucas stole this scene almost one for one to do the pod racing scene in Phantom Menace.
Yeah,
a lot of people make note of that, but it's good to show off. And oh god, there's just so many crazy things about this movie.
I just can't get over how like also like, you know, like I was saying before, they don't make them like they used to. Like just like the film stock, like how blue the eyes are in this movie, and like the glistening effect that people have on them, like it just doesn't come off like that anymore in film.
It really doesn't,
because like I guess it was like the actual film stock they used to use back then, and like the process and everything.
I believe this is one of the last films done with true Technicolor.
I love Technicolor. I love the way it looks.
It's beautiful, right?
It looks beautiful to the eyes. It is candy to my eyes.
God, we need to talk about the rest of this film because
Okay, sure.
the chariot sequence, though amazing, and if you have to watch this movie for any reason, that's the reason.
Yes,
but
there's so much more to this movie.
It's 3.5 hours. There's a lot more to this movie.
Yeah, and the chariot sequence is only like 10 minutes long, 15.
Yeah, maybe. I would actually have to check because I was actually edge of my seat. I stopped paying attention to the rest of the room. I was invested.
Yes, we were both literally on the edges of our seat. I was watching it, like thinking to myself, God, like, can it get any crazier than this? Like,
where Masala gets like his chariot shatters and he's being dragged behind, and the horses from the other guy comes up and like runs over him.
Yes,
and you see where it's a real stuntman has turned over and is grabbing the underside of the horse's reins and is like trying to crawl away.
Oh, yes.
And I'm like, oh my God, that's a real human being, and there's not a safety line there.
That is a crazy stunt. Although, you know, they do cut away to where like he gets run over.
Yeah,
you
so
know?
you're like, okay, there's a doll there.
Yes,
but that was a real sketch for a minute.
Well, yeah, where he's crawling under the like chariot, crazy stunts.
Oh yeah, and this film also opens almost like a painting, where we have those images over Bethlehem, and it's supposed to be the birth of Christ.
Yes,
and it's weird because it's almost surreal in how it looks.
Yeah, they do look eerily like paintings or like old Walt Disney animation, like where they used to do like the cell animation. The cell animation, like layering, you know, it almost looks like that. Because it's set, I don't know how they filmed it. Did they actually use landscapes? Do you know?
I actually don't know. I believe for that there was like matte paintings, and there was I don't believe they used like true landscapes for that.
They look beautiful.
They look gorgeous. I can't imagine them doing like real landscapes because it's formed too perfectly.
Yes.
This was actually gonna be filmed on location in Jerusalem, Bethlehem.
No, that would have been ambitious.
I mean, they filmed a lot of this in Rome, Italy. Rome. Yeah. And oh my God, it looks so beautiful.
It looks so pretty. All of the scenes in this movie look so good. In the boat.
Oh, the boat scene is amazing. Also, they have the one stunt in there that's just like the first like crazy one. We were like, oh, that's insane. Where Ben-Hur lights the guy's face on fire.
Oh, yeah, where he puts the torch in the guy's face as they're being boarded.
Mm-hmm.
That was crazy too,
yeah. I really like the boat scene. I think that's really where the whole story starts, and that's crazy because it's almost like an hour into the movie.
I think that's where it really starts to get going, and where the story really picks up and things kind of start coming together for the first time. Is really on the boat.
Yeah, because everything before that is with just
console.
Yeah, with console. Everything before that is just establishing Ben-Hur, his relationship with Masala, his family, Esther, all the people in Ben-Hur's life who we're gonna see betray him. He's gonna lose.
To come back to,
and we're gonna come back to, and then we get to the boat.
Oh, also establishing Jesus.
Establishing young Yeezy, and all that. I'm sorry, I had to.
Goodness.
We established Jesus, and oh God, and it goes right. We get to the boat. He saves
the consul.
He saves the consul. He is taken to Rome. He wins some chariot races. He becomes the LeBron James of chariot races. Basically, and
he gets basically pardoned by the Emperor of Rome.
Which, bruh, that's big. He gets pardoned by the Emperor of Rome.
He becomes the Consul Arius's son. Basically,
gets adopted. And that basically gives him the ability to
go as he pleases
and seek revenge on Masala, which I love that revenge story.
It's so good.
It really is. And it's crazy to see that fall that Ben-Hur has, that Judah Ben-Hur has, and that rise back. Because this is what this movie is. We see him fall to the darkest you can go and rise up out of it.
Well, also, So, Masala and Ben-Hur, they kind of feel both like they were betrayed by the other person. And it really comes off well, I think, to make it so that, Masala does seem like, he's the antagonist. He's obviously the antagonist of the story, but he seems believable.
Which are the best kind of antagonists? The ones where you can see why they're the bad guy.
Yeah, the ones that are like, they're doing what they're doing because they're principled, because they believe it's right. Those are the best. antagonists, and Masala definitely fits in that category. And even Pontius Pilate, when Ben-Hur comes to talk to him near the end of the movie, and Pontius Pilate is, basically saying that I cannot protect you. Basically he says that he likes you, Ben-Hur, but I cannot protect you. I am a servant of Rome, and that he lives under a set of rules,
As he's like, Judah, as soon as you leave this room, all bets are off.
Yes. He's like, unless you return to your father Arius, that is it, Judah. This is it between us. You are just another Jew, basically.
Oh, it's so good. There's so much drama there's so much drama in this.
Yes.
Okay.
And all the characters are so principled. They have their own internal codes they live by. It's like when Esther finds out that Ben-Hur's mom and sister are alive, right? And they tell her, promise on your love for him that you will not tell him. And she doesn't.
Because they're lepers, and she knows that is what they want. They don't want Ben-Hur to see them as they are. He wants to remember them as they were.
Yes.
Beautiful. And, okay,
because I feel like if this movie was remade today, she would just turn around and tell Ben-Hur.
Fun fact, it was remade.
Oh, no.
In 2013 or 16, something like that.
Oh, no.
I mean, I think it cost... Okay, I know this much. It cost $100 million to make the remake, and it made back like $90 million of its budget. Not great. Not great. Well, we're not gonna watch.
Not making it on the AFI Top 100.
I don't think so. I mean, we're not gonna watch that one on this podcast. But if you're interested, maybe. But I think we got to get into some little questions I got for you, Randy.
Okay, sure.
So
hit me with it.
This story is the definition of an epic. We span years of Judah Ben-Hur's life.
Yes.
We travel with him across the Roman Empire. We see him fall to the lowest a man can go, to a slave on a ship, and rise back from the ashes as the champion in the arena. But a giant criticism, a lot of viewers, a lot of audience members, a lot of people who watch this movie, is that it's too long. It's 3.5 hour runtime. It has some slow beats to it. It's a little hard to power through. Do you think that any part of this epic could have been cut for time and still have the same effect? Or do you think as is, you just have to grin and bear it because you just have to watch the whole thing to get the plot?
I wouldn't cut anything.
You wouldn't cut anything?
There's nothing to be cut here.
Oh, really?
No. It is a full and complete story. I really say with confidence that there is nothing you could leave out from this story. And it would have... If you left out anything, it would not have the same impact. Like, it is just such a complete and full story of his life. And it only takes place over 5 years of his life.
Yeah.
He's already a man when we meet him. Mm-hmm. Or, they say he's a boy. Barely a man.
Yeah, but it's Charlton Heston. He looks like in his 40s since forever. Like, that's an interesting thing. Because I would figure you're a person who's rather critical of certain things. And I figure you'd say something where you're like, this doesn't really work. We could probably skim a little bit at the front.
No, I had to kind of really think about it, because that's where I would think, you could skim something from, like, at the beginning of the movie, but everything sets up everything else. Everything works. There's not really a scene in the movie that doesn't pay off.
Which is great writing. It's great script writing.
It's so good.
That's Randy's catchphrase of the day. It's so good.
It's ridiculous how well everything is set up in the movie. And, it's set up at the beginning that, like, Masala and Tirza might have, like, kind of this, like, young love between them. Where it says that, like, or where it's established that Tirza has, like, turned away suitors because she's waiting for Masala's return from Rome. And then for... that like setup to make Masala's turn, basically his betrayal of Ben-Hur and his family, where he locks Tirza, his like
the love
apparent, away in a dungeon to become a leper,
away in a dungeon where
for 4 years,
where no one sees them for 4 years. Even the jailers aren't sure if they're alive. They think they are because the food disappears in front of their cell. They've never opened the door in 4 years. That sounds like a living hell. Oh my god, this is it's so good.
It's also like because they're like thrown away in the deepest, darkest part of this dungeon. At least it's set up to be kind of that way. You know, it's like all damp and whatnot.
They have to travel down like 4 stories into the earth to get to the door. It's the last door in the dungeon.
It kind of symbolizes Masala's kind of taken his love for her and like put it deep down within himself, you know, tried to forget about it by keeping it so far out of sight.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that she's still alive. Masala could have killed them. But they're still alive.
Which is fascinating, because you would figure in this kind of narrative they would have been put to death, and this would have been the story of Ben-Hur avenging them.
Yes.
But really it's Ben-Hur searching for them. Then he does eventually have the idea that they are dead, and he's going to avenge them, and that's the whole chariot race sequence.
Yes.
But it is fascinating that they are still alive. That could be a symbolic thing where Masala, even though he betrayed them, even though he hates them, deep down he still keeps that ember of his love for that family alive. It's
he
very
couldn't
good.
bring himself to do it.
It's true. He couldn't bring himself to just kill.
I mean, he couldn't even kill Ben-Hur. Yeah,
it's true.
He sent him away to the galleys.
So you're saying this movie, not a frame can be cut?
I mean, maybe a frame, but definitely not a scene or sequence. No cuts. There's no frames in the chariot race that may be cut. No frames in that chariot sequence.
Not a frame. And let's talk about the man of the hour.
Charlton Heston.
Yes, the man.
The guy.
Yeah, Judah Ben-Hur. And this is the thing about Charlton Heston. He's been called a wooden actor in the past, or an actor that doesn't have a lot of range, because he comes from that really old style Hollywood acting chops where you have a personality and they just kind of implant you into movies.
Mm-hmm.
But he did win an Oscar for this role. And do you think he did a good job as Ben-Hur? Do you think the rest of the cast did fair in their roles?
I can see where people can call him pretty wooden, because he does seem kind of like this stern, very masculine character where he doesn't want to show his emotion very much.
Very stoic human being.
Very stoic person. But then, like, when he does break for his emotions in the film, it's very believable. Because it's like, you can feel that bottled up emotion in him, and then when he releases it, you know, when he's talking to Tirza, and she says that he has become Masala, like, the emotion in him is very believable. And the look on his face is so good. Like,
oh yeah,
I can see, like, through most of the movie, he is somewhat wooden, you know, but it's almost in the character. You know, it's very believable that's just how the character is, and not so much that, oh, that's just Chuck Heston being Chuck Heston. Like,
it happens. And it's crazy because I can kind of get behind it, because when he's doing his dialogue, he's very, you know, well, Masala, I don't know what's going on here. Because that's just how he talks. But his body language, he's a very physical performer.
Yes.
Where you can tell just by the way he moves, carries himself. When he's in the boat sequence, he barely has lines, but you get everything going on between him and the
console.
And the console. Thank you for reminding me of these character names. Him and the console.
Well, it's Arius or whatever. But
Arius,
yes. Console.
Where it's him and the console, and there's barely lines of dialogue, and the console is saying, real fast, and he's trying to get Charlton Heston, Ben-Hur to break, and you just see the determination, his movements, how he stares.
The hate, he's like staring daggers through the console.
Judah, hate keeps a man alive.
Yes, exactly.
And this whole movie is kind of the story of Judah Ben-Hur embodying all that hate, and through, I guess, well, Jesus kind of gives that hate away, right? Because at the end, up until we have Jesus on the cross, and this is like the final scene, the crucifixion,
yes,
Judah still has all that hate and anger in him, and
only vengeance. You know, he wants to destroy Rome, basically. And
only after, you know, his family's healed, he sees, you know, God and all that stuff, he can let it go. This is the journey of a man finding faith.
You know, that line at the end where he says that his words, I felt his words, like, drop my sword or whatever. And it's just, like, so good.
It's so good. And
the other actors are pretty good in this movie, too.
I believe every acting category for the Oscars of 59 or 60, whenever it won its awards, they all went to the actors in this movie. Which, great, right?
Yes.
And I guess that's another
Did
thing.
Masala win Best Supporting Actor?
Actually, no. He didn't win Best Supporting Actors. I believe it was the Consul. He won Best Supporting Actor.
Oh,
right?
okay.
And everyone was like,
weird.
How did Masala not win?
That is so weird. Why the Consul? He's in so many fewer scenes.
It's true, but the Consul is so good.
Yes.
And that he builds that father-son dynamic in the few scenes he's in, that the dynamic they have on the boat.
Well, the dynamic they have on the boat, and then like on the raft. And then when they arrive on the new boat, and the Consul's like told that he won the battle, and he like, you know, because on the raft he's like, all he wants to do is die because he thinks he's lost the battle. You know, he's
and a Roman soldier does not, live a lost battle.
Yeah, he defiled the name of Rome by losing this huge important battle, only to be saved by a measly slave. But then he gets to the boat and is told he won the battle, and he was saved by this heroic slave. You know, he kind of turns it all around to where he hated Chuck Heston's character Ben-Hur on the raft, and when he gets to the boat, he loves him like a son.
He doesn't even take the water that the Romans give him because they've been lost at sea for so long. He gives it to Ben-Hur first. He's like, "You saved my life, and this is my gift to you." And it's a great symbolic thing because when he's being taken to the galley as a slave, he begs for water, and the only person who will give him water is literally Jesus.
Oh, yes, when he's on his journey to the galleys, yes.
Yeah, and then after that, the next person who gives him water is the Consul, who takes him in as a friend. It's fascinating the use of water as a motif in this film, where...
It is.
And it even comes back around at the end where
Judah is the one that gives Jesus water as he's taking the cross up to the mound.
It's fascinating. Okay, so I got another one for you. So this film is an old Hollywood epic through and through, and they really don't make films like this anymore.
Really don't.
They really don't. The lavish sets, giant production, the insanely dangerous stunts.
Which maybe those we could do without.
Maybe. I mean, look, no one died in this one. In 1925, I think a guy died and a bunch of horses did, but it is whatever.
Okay.
They fixed that in 59. So, does any...
Kind of surprised.
Me too. So does any sequence in here stand out to you as you were watching it, other than the chariot scene? Because I think the chariot scene is the reason you watch this, right? Or do you think there's another sequence or scene that really stands above the chariot scene? Because that's the famous one.
Not above the chariot scene, but I think a good second would be the fight on the ocean with the galleys.
Yeah.
Very good. And, they have, like, the entire sequence, like, the lead up to it with the rowing, like, test that the Consul gives them.
Where you see slaves passing out from exhaustion. You see them being used as cattle.
And then when they actually get into the battle and they chain up all the slaves except for
Ben-Hur, because the Consul sees something in him.
He sees something in him, and so I think at that point, I don't even know if the Consul knew why he did it.
Really?
Yes. It's one of those things where he probably just, like... Because... I don't know. To me, it feels like one of those things where he just did it. He didn't really know why he unlocked Ben-Hur, but he just did it. He like felt something, it was one of those gut feeling things. Like, to me, that's how it comes across.
It's almost the thing of like, the Consul didn't let you loose, fate let you loose.
Yes.
The Consul doesn't even know why it's that. It's the inevitable feeling. I think it could relate to the fact that he tested Ben-Hur, and he passed his test with the rowing, and then he asked him to come and see him, and Ben-Hur doesn't kill him in his sleep when he comes in, and they have the whole thing where the Consul's like, I can take you to Rome, and you can do work in my arena. You would be a slave, but I'll get you off the ship because I see something in you.
Yes.
And Ben-Hur's like, I won't be your slave because I will free myself, and I will seek revenge on Masala and da-da-da-da. And the Consul, I think the Consul feels something and like, this isn't...
Respects him.
Respects him. Like, this isn't a slave who's lost the will to live. This is a slave who is still a man.
Also,
and
it's
still wants vengeance.
It's established that the Consul has lost their son.
Yeah.
And he's probably seeking a son-like figure, and he finds it in Judah on the boat, and he doesn't want to lose another son.
Yeah. It's so good. The subtlety of the performances and the story and what's going on here is fascinating.
And so that whole sequence, and like when the boats are like actually like fighting and like shooting each other, and they have the sequence where the two boats go past each other,
and you see all the oars
rips
going
the oars off the other boat. It's so cool. It's so good.
Yeah, and the crazy thing, that's all practical.
No, they do not do that with real boats. It has to be miniatures.
A few of them were real boats, but there were a lot of miniature work.
Okay.
All right, and I'm not saying like practical. You're just like you're not telling me they got all those boats out in the Mediterranean and started blasting.
And then, no, not like blasting, but when they did the sequence where they ripped off the oars off one of the boats.
That wasn't real. As far as I know, that was
that's
miniature.
Gotta be miniatures.
Right?
There's no way.
I mean,
that'd be so insane. Could you imagine?
The miniatures, quote unquote, they were using were like 14 feet long.
Okay.
They were
big
boats, basically, that they were set up like this. But there were some like real actual ships they were using in some of the shots.
That was good. Also, I think where I'd rank like the third best like sequence in the movie is at the end where they find out like Jesus is on trial, and that whole sequence of him being on trial and then having to take the crucifix up to the mound. Like that whole sequence.
Basically the crucifixion.
Yes, the crucifixion.
Which I'm watching that, and we're not exactly religious people.
No, not particularly, no.
But I'm watching that, I'm like, okay, now I can see why people get behind Jesus movies. Because
I love
this
Jesus
is so
movies.
good.
I love that feeling of like everything being bigger than what it seems to be in movies like that, because it really comes off to me that way, where Masala is asking like Judah to like betray his people, and Judah's like, no, I cannot do that, not just for his people but for God.
Which is fascinating because in practical terms, he's asking Judah to like, hey, can you give me some names of like the few people in this town, right? That are the rabble rousers, and Judah sees this as like this again, the betrayal to God, the betrayal of his people, and it's the thing where it's like you ask him to do a little, but there's so much behind it, the subtext of the things in this movie. It's really good. Now, I guess with all that, is there any part of this movie you didn't like?
That I didn't like?
Anything, maybe a criticism, a thought, something that might have helped the movie if they tweaked it one way or the other.
Esther could have probably used a little more like emotion and acting.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like she actually came off as kind of wooden.
Really?
Yes.
Oh wow! I felt the opposite. I thought she was really good.
Really? I
really liked her.
I don't know. Maybe it was more supposed to be in her character, because like the only times where I really got like the really good emotion from her, although she's not in as many scenes as Charlton Heston is.
That's true.
Is when she's telling Charlton Heston that he has become Masala, when Judah has become Masala,
Oh, yeah.
It's such a good scene. They're both really good in that. But otherwise, I think they use a lot of the shots of her as just like a pretty face.
Mm-hmm. I mean, she has a pretty face.
True. Very true. But I think that a lot of the shots they give of her is just her like looking over in a direction.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, that's it. Like, you just get that shot for a couple of seconds. And it's supposed to, like, portray something, which I think is fine. I mean, it also makes sense because her character was a slave, basically, and she has this kind of, like, reserved nature to herself. Because, I mean, when she first talks to Judah in the movie, she has that reserved nature to her to where she still sees Judah as her master, and she doesn't speak unless spoken to and like all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I think maybe it does play out with her character a little better than what I'm giving it credit for.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I can see where you're coming from, because she is playing a very reserved character, and a lot of her scenes are very played down.
Yes.
And this feels like a movie you need to play a little bit bigger than what you might expect. And with that, I have my critique.
What are your favorite scenes, actually?
My favorite scenes?
Because I named my 3 favorite scenes. What are your favorite scenes? Although I can't name sequences. I'm not gonna lie.
Sequences and scenes. It makes sense, because the chariot sequence is obviously the best
part of this movie. Yeah. My lord.
Oh yeah, and the boat sequence for me, again, I I really like that boat sequence.
Now, do
it's
you
so
like
good.
more of like the actual battle boat sequence or before?
Oh, before it. Oh, I
Definitely
love
before.
the whole. I love all that because there's so much character going on there. We have a silent sequence, a battle of wills going on. We have the dialogue right
They really
after.
do a good job setting up the console.
Yes,
They
yes.
do a great job.
That was
up.
like my one critique. I wish we had more console. I wish we saw an intervening time, a little bit like a montage or something, just anything
of them like that, like half a year or maybe a little bit more that they were together in Rome.
Oh yeah, that would have been good. And I understand this is a 3.5 hour movie, but
we could have made it 4 hours.
Right.
Get a little more console set up.
the most
You asked me earlier, is there anything I could cut from this movie? I was like, no. We need to add some more to this movie.
Most controversial opinion about Ben-Hur. And this could use another like 20 minutes.
This could use another 20 minutes of setup with the console.
But yeah, like okay, the boat sequence, everything on the boat. Literally everything. I love everything about it. It is tied for me with the chariot sequence.
Really, it's that
Oh
good?
yeah, for me it's
I would definitely
so
say
much
the chariot sequence is better for me.
Oh yeah, again, they're like tied. Chariot sequence is gonna win out because it's just I was edge of my seat the entire time.
Literally edge of my seats.
Literally the edge of my seat. But the boat sequence is just there's so much character going on there, and I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. My three gonna go against you with the crucifixion,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna go with the opening of the film where it's the birth in the manger because every frame of that is a painting.
Yeah.
It's so awe-inspiringly beautiful.
It does set up the whole the whole feeling of the movie really well.
Mm-hmm. And those ones are chef's kiss, so good.
Yeah.
But my only critique of this film, because there's one
that you have,
the Sheik. When I was saying, yeah, people should play bigger than what's going on screen. Mr. Hugh Griffith playing the Sheik. Oh, he's playing big. Like I think he's playing a little too big, which kind of goes in the scare.
Really?
He's kind of flashy. He's the Sheik that owns the horses, and he's backing Ben-Hur. And don't get me wrong, when he goes into like the bathhouse and he's like placing the bet against Masala, I love that. That's so good. But when he's in the tent and he's talking to Ben-Hur, I think he's chewing the scenery a little bit.
No.
You're not feeling it?
Nah.
Not
I
even
loved him. Because
Well-
like everybody else in the whole movie is such like a serious character that
Mhm.
having him around for like the small amount of time he is around, and he's just kind of like this lighthearted guy, you know?
Mhm.
And it really helps the film, I think,
It
to kind of stitch together these two parts of the film.
I get you. He does serve an important plot point.
Yes.
Very important. And it might also go to the thing where they're trying to imply there's a cultural difference between the Romans, the Arabs, and the Jews going on here.
Well, I mean, you don't really have to imply it. It's there.
I know it's there, but it's also a thing where, like, cinematically, they're implying it through how the Sheik not only dresses differently, everything, his surroundings are different, how he carries himself, how he acts on screen to other people. It's very different than how Judah Ben-Hur acts with people, or even Masala acts with people. It's very different, and it might go into it. It might be a thing where he might have just been playing a little bit too big for my taste. That might have been my thing.
Nah, I loved him.
You loved him?
I loved him in his role.
Is he better than Omar Sharif in Lawrence of Arabia?
Oh Lord, no.
Lord, no. When he's like, Omar Sharif needs to be my granddad. Like, please.
Oh,
He's a reverend to his people.
Oh my! I'm a huge fan of Lawrence of Arabia.
I can't wait for us to get to that one because I haven't actually seen it all the way through.
No,
not all the way through.
Oh my goodness!
Right, he's like, I need this in my life.
You do not know what you're missing.
That's why I want to go through the AFI Top 100. I'm very excited.
What you're missing.
It's see what I'm missing exactly.
I mean, you were missing this. You know, you'd only seen like half of it before.
Oh god, I don't even think I saw half of it. I think I watched it up until I had to use the bathroom, which was probably only like 30 minutes in because 2 double gulps from 7-Eleven will do that to you, and then I just never finished it. Because it does.
Yeah, man, you really did yourself a disservice.
I really did.
This was so good.
It was, and I guess that leads me to the one more thing. Do you think this deserved the giant box office, the 11 Oscars, its place in the zeitgeist?
I think because the 10 Commandments kind of it was almost like a layup, you know, like a slant, like, you know, the 10 Commandments kind of set up the whole like framing for Ben-Hur to be what it was, because it came out like the year before. It was also a Bible epic, also starred Charleston Heston.
It's true. They probably would have gotten Cecil B. DeMille to do this, but he passed away the same year this came out.
Oh no, really?
Passed away in 1959.
Wow.
Yeah, which it's crazy. Like Cecil B. DeMille is like, hey, I'm just gonna like make 10 Commandments, and then I'm gonna go out.
I guess.
Is there a better last film? I actually don't know if it is last film, but if it is, that's an insane legacy, right?
Hats off to you, Cecil B. DeMille. May you rest in peace.
Right? Oh.
But like, yeah, basically set up this movie to be as big as it was, because I'm sure 10 Commandments was also a huge hit.
Giant. It was the biggest hit of its year.
And so I'm pretty sure that without 10 Commandments, that Ben-Hur wouldn't have like hit as hard. But with 10 Commandments going into Ben-Hur, it was set up to be just such a slam dunk of the century. Just one of the best films, because they went all in on it.
All in.
If this
didn't hit, if they didn't make double, triple, quadruple back their budget, MGM would not have existed. No 007. The entire MGM library probably would have just been burned and disappeared, because this was 1959. No one was preserving anything.
Oh goodness.
Oh my god. So much of like film history and things that like spawned from MGM studios would just be gone. Disappeared.
But yeah, I think the public at large was set up for Ben-Hur through 10 Commandments, and that really like helped them, like, how do I say, get all of the Oscars that year that they did, because maybe if the public hadn't have been like set up for a big Bible epic, they wouldn't have appreciated it as much, and even though I know like the Oscars aren't given out by the public,
nah,
but the people that do give out the awards are influenced by the zeitgeist,
Oh yeah. And here's an interesting little factoid for you. So, this movie comes out, and Ben-Hur top of the box office the year it comes out, and it's like 36 million. The exact year, because this debuted later in the year and it made a lot of money in its initial run, but on opening weekend. It's followed by Disney's The Shaggy Dog. It made $9 million. 36 to 9 million is a big drop. And the other films that come out this year are bangers. North by Northwest, Some Like It Hot, Rio Bravo, and outside of America, 400 Blows comes out, which starts the French New Wave.
Wow.
But North by Northwest, that's Hitchcock.
Yeah,
Some Like It Hot, that's Billy Wilder. Both of those movies are on the AFI Top 100. Rio Bravo, I love this movie. It's also one of Quentin Tarantino's favorite Westerns. It stars Dean Martin, John Wayne, Ricky Nelson. It's a Howard Hawks Western. It's like a template film for how like great Western narratives are told after. And Ben-Hur still sweeps.
Yeah, swept over something like North by Northwest.
Which, insane, right?
Yeah.
And
after you watch Ben-Hur, you're like, hey, it's the way it goes.
It happens.
It's the way it goes. It happens, like competing up against a movie like Ben-Hur, you're not going to do so hot.
It's true. All right. Well,
we'll have to see, because actually there's 99 other movies that the American Film Institute has said would have done better.
Oh yeah, and here's the crazy thing. Actually, I think that gets us to the AFI comparison here, because this film is number 100 on the list, because we're using the 2007 list, the most recent list we have.
Please make a new list, AFI, if you're listening.
Please God. But this was at the 72 spot in the 1998 list, the first list. And it dropped all the way down to 100. 72 to 100.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So, do you think it deserves its spot at 100? It should stay there? Or do you think that another movie would be better suited to take the spot? Do you think 10 Commandments should take the spot at 100?
Well, I think 10 Commandments should take the spot at 100, and then
Ben-Hur
should move up to 99. What's the next movie on the list? What's 99?
99? Well, 99 I believe is Toy Story. That's big.
That's a big ask.
I
don't know.
We'll get back to you. But okay, do you think
it deserves to be on the list at all?
On the list at all?
Yes, of course.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
At least this or 10 Commandments, one of the two has to be on the list. And if I had to choose, I'm a huge fan of 10 Commandments. I think Ben-Hur might be better.
It's the chariot sequence, right?
I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it one more time. It's so good.
Randy's like, I mean, Ten Commandments is good. The part of the Red Seas is good. It ain't the chariot race sequence.
Well, also, I really love the rotoscoping effects in Ten
It-
Commandments.
it's
Oh,
true.
I love them. I love them, dude.
So, yeah, because I really like Ben-Hur. I didn't think I was gonna like it. I thought
Really?
I thought this was.
You thought you were gonna get bored?
Yeah, honestly, 3.5 hours, Bible epic. It's made in an era of Hollywood that it doesn't have a great track record for having engagement in terms of the audience. I thought it was gonna be. I thought I was gonna have to fight to stay awake. We went to go get food before this, and I powered down 2 coffees.
This man does not drink coffee.
I hate coffees. It's so gross, and I had two big cups of coffee because I was like, I needed to stay awake through this. And oh my god, I was at the edge of my seat. Like, the minute we hit the boat sequence, I was like, okay,
You're like, this is good.
This is real good. I'm in. It does feel like if you're gonna watch this.
Oh, use the intermission, by the way. If you're going to watch this, use the intermission. I will say that, one of the things you wouldn't cut from this movie, even if you could, do not cut the intermission.
You need it.
You need the intermission.
You really do. But if I was going to suggest anybody watch this, yes, use the intermission. It's necessary. But push through the opening act, because it's setting up a lot of stuff that's going to pay off later. It's a lot of dialogue. It's a lot of getting to know you stuff. It's old Hollywood storytelling. But the moment you hit the boat sequence, it picks up and it's great. You will be engaged the rest of the film. You just push through people. It gets better.
I mean, I'm probably, I guess I'm in the minority here, where I'm thinking, like, I even liked the beginning. Like, I was loving it, the movie from end to end. I loved everything.
I love the opening sequence. Like, the opening sequence, I'm watching and I'm like, this is what they mean by a filmmaker painting with the frame. Because it's gorgeously composed.
What is the term, like, every frame of painting?
Every frame of painting. It's a really famous video essay channel on YouTube. Which, come back, please. Your country needs you.
Oh, goodness.
But yeah. So, I guess any suggestions for anybody about this one? Are you excited for the next film in the list? Closing thoughts.
I'm excited for Toy Story. Haven't seen it in a long time. I'm hoping it holds up. Kind of afraid it might not.
I mean,
And for Ben-Hur, definitely watch it. Like, it is worth the 3.5 hours. 100% worth the 3.5 hours. It is so unbelievably good. It is just a feast for the eyes. It is everything I had hoped for and way more.
I hyped this up for you kind of a lot.
Kind of a lot, because one of my favorite movies, like easily top 3 favorite movies, was 10 Commandments.
Yeah.
And you were like, oh, it's a Bible epic with Charleston Heston. You already love those.
I used this movie to sell you on doing this podcast.
He's like, it's got this great chariot race sequence. It's one of the best in cinema. It's amazing. And I'm like, yeah, it's going to be great. Whatever. Like, haha, yeah. I know the meme is that I love Bible epic movies and I love epics. It's not really a meme. I just do. Mm-hmm. Also love Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah.
Which is also another very long movie.
It's true. Randy's like, the longer the film, the better.
I mean, I haven't seen a movie over 3.5 hours that I haven't liked. But I don't see many of them.
It's impressive.
But yeah, it is definitely worth your time. Unbelievably good.
Unbelievably good. That's probably a good place to put it. And, yeah, I kind of have to agree with you. Again, it beat all my expectations. I'm very happy with watching this. And with that, Toy Story is next week. I've seen that movie for my other podcast I've done, the Double Feature Picture Show, and the Film Club podcast, which you can find on Spotify.
I watched it for both?
I watched it for both of them, 2 separate episodes.
Oh my.
Exactly. So I've refreshed myself on Toy Story more than once. So I'm going to save my thoughts on it until we get there. But if you wanted to find out, check it out on Spotify, Apple Podcast, all, podcast services, well, the YouTube channel, In the Frame, where you can find more of these episodes of the Film Odyssey podcast. Randy, I don't know how to close this out. You need some Jesus in your life?
You need some Jesus in your life, and some Ben-Hur. Definitely some Ben-Hur and chariot races.
Chariot races and Ben-Hur.
It's so good.
The stuff dreams are made of.